stories unfold. The VM network, let the stories be told. VM network, it's your time to tune in. Stories that connect where we all begin.
It's about that time once again. Good morning. You are tuned into Voices of the Art, broadcasting live on Voice on the Move network, where creativity meets purpose and every story inspires. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. And if this is your first time here, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, click on that notification bell to get a notification each and every single time we go live. I'm your host, Andile Dube, Matt Dube _ on all social media platforms. Kodwa ngihambe ngedwa, ngihamba no Mo Disakeng.
She got it right this time. And today we are going to go into the heartbeat of broadcasting. Our segment is titled Mic Check, and we are asking, is radio still the people's voice even in the age of social media?
Please do remember that this is a live broadcast and we want to hear your voice. Do send us a comment on the comment section or any questions that you might have. We'll be reading them throughout the course of the show.
But before we do that, let's take a look at a short clip that shows how radio has shaped the South African culture over centuries.
We are joined by a gentleman who needs no introduction, but do allow me the honor to do so. We're joined by a legendary radio DJ, entrepreneur, programs manager, as well as a voiceover artist, and is also the author of an amazing read titled Ngizolalela Emsakazweni. He's also mentored many young voices and have been a part of many popular radio stations, including East Coast Radio, Radio 2000, as well as Igagasi. Allow me the honor to welcome Mr. Makhosi Khoza. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Morning. I just need to know who needs to get the slap on the wrist for getting me out of bed on a Saturday. This is early for me. But I'm here, as you can tell. I'm powered.
Yes.
It definitely cannot be us that are getting the slap on the wrist. Our seniors are present, so just giving you a hint. So, Mr. Khoza, take us back to 30 years ago. We want to know who was Mr. Khoza then, and fast forwarding to 30 years later, we're still living in the radio industry, and we want to find out, is it still alive or is it dead? But how have you survived in such a difficult industry?
Sure. Where does one start? So, 1992. So that makes it 33 years this year.
Yeah.
I'm very young. I am very young.
So, everything evolves, right? Radio is no stranger to that. But I think just in the perspective of my story, I never grew up wanting to be on radio. It was one of those stories where you stumble into it. I grew up loving listening to radio. My room was right next to my parents' room, and my dad every day in the evening would like, Makhosi, just turn the volume down, we're trying to sleep. But I was just so excited. It was the internet, it was the TV, it was everything in those times. But I wanted to be a pilot.
A pilot?
Yes, fly planes.
Okay.
You know, the same way some people are like, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a fireman. I was like, no, piloting. True story. I had it all worked out. I'd do high school, go to fly school, that's it. But as life would happen, my dad said, okay, since you're going to be doing piloting and it's all physics and maths and all that, do a BSc. That wasn't the plan. He destroyed my dreams because I was forced to do a degree I thought was for nerds. So I did first year in Eswatini, failed, wasn't motivated, repeated, passed. Second year, failed, repeated, failed again. Now, in my day, you can't fail more than twice. So after 4 years of a BSc, I then had to find a plan B. My dad was like, hey, it doesn't look like the BSc is working out. What else can you do? And I then said, okay, let me try law. Fast forward, that's how I came to Durban, which is my mother's hometown, Durban, and discovered that there was a campus radio station. And you're encouraged as a student to engage in extracurricular activities or join a club or society. And the society I joined was the campus radio station. I was shocked that they let me in because, fortunately for me, the station used to broadcast on campus into the dining halls only, so during meal times. So the time I visited the station, it was in between, and they're like, oh, if you want to try out radio, there's the studio, go mess around. I messed around. People heard me and they were like, hey, this guy's got something. So essentially, I was pushed into radio by people seeing in me something I couldn't see in myself.
Yeah.
So that was my start in radio. And I often say, when people tell me, what's it like to always want to be on radio, I'm like, I have no idea. I just stumbled into it.
You wanted to do initially.
You know, I don't know if I've answered your question, but I just gave you an insight as to how I started. So worked my way from campus station to Eswatini. When I came back home, I said, oh, Mom, Vash is great, but I'm on radio. Can I try out on the national station?
Yeah.
So my first year of radio, I got onto a national station. And I was doing all the shows because there it's literally run like a government department.
Yeah.
So depending on the roster, you're either doing afternoon drive or morning drive or whatever the case is.
Yes.
So from there, it was then Capital Radio, East Coast Radio, Kakasi, 702. So my radio career has taken me to UK, it's taken me to Turkey. And it's been interesting because I've gone through being a like I think you said, the intro, presenter, consultant, set up my own radio training school. So it's a lot, and I've been able to wear different hats. But in that journey and working at different institutions, from your SABC to Kakiso Media to Prime Media to Arena Holdings to you name it, I've been exposed to how different people work, why they do certain things, because I'm very curious and restless at heart. Always trying to figure out why do people do things, which is why when I made the choice in 2005 to literally drop the mic, I said to the universe, I can't be doing this anymore. I was doing different shows, but they all sounded the same to me because I'd cracked, as you nowadays kids would say, the algorithm. It was different positions, but they all looked the same. And the universe answered my call. And then 2006, I was headhunted and became the program manager of Kakas. So I've kind of come full circle. And now that I've resigned in 2002, being program manager at Kakasi, I'm now on the outside looking in, which is why I'm hoping I can shed some light to the discussion we're having today.
Yes, definitely. You're going to be shedding, or you have started rather, shedding some light on today's conversation. You know what I find very interesting about you, Mr. Makhosi, is the fact that you've worked for many radio stations and you have able to adapt your voice to the needs of each station you've served, which I think is quite a difficult task to do. How have you been able to do that?
I don't know if I've adapted. Or the station, if I can be so bold, stations have molded themselves around me. Let me kind of, this is where the kids say, let him cook.
Let him cook.
So I come from the era whereby you had to be very polished, be careful how you pronounce things, you must be clear, you must project your voice and people must hear you, to an era now where it's all about the personality, right? What makes you different? I think the appropriate term might be idiosyncrasy, like the things that make you you. Bring that out, because that is what sets you apart. Because in a sea of sameness, that one bit of differentness is what makes you special. So the point is I've moved from trying to be polished to being authentic. So what you hear is what you get. So if you had to meet me for coffee, not now, outside, we would probably have a similar conversation. you don't try to act like somebody. You've got to be consistently yourself. And I think more and more, real is recognizing real, meaning that the people who are not authentic are being exposed. And the people who are authentic, unfortunately, by and large, are now found not on radio, but on social media and other platforms.
That's very true.
So obviously you have a history of campus radio. Community radio has been involved as well. And these days we are seeing that community and campus radio is slowly dying out or they are being shut down. Examples are Radio DT or Durban Youth Radio. What do you then think has led to that?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Unfortunately, the first one is economic. By and large, through the MDDA, community stations were supported financially and with the resources to be able to survive. But in the passage of time, they now have had to adopt business models to sustain themselves. I think there was a point in 2023 when community stations were owing like 84 million rands because they had not paid for Centec and they're on the verge of being shut down. I remember one particular briefing they had in the hotel in Mhlanga where they literally were begging not to be shut down because they knew they were in arrears, which now goes against the grain of but we're community, we're not supposed to make money. Now you're shutting us down not because of what we do or how we service our people, but because we may not be able to have been able to pay for licenses and that kind of thing. So the first one, I think, is that business model. And a lot of people are now saying, we need to find a way to fund that level of broadcasting because it's important, because it's local, it's to the community, right? And certain trends show that if you focus on local and go hyper-local, is what they're saying, it serves you better than speaking to mass. You now want to narrow your focus, right, to people who are defined geographically. I know some people are defined, or some sectors are defined by interest. For example, if you have a religious station, it's more widespread than the area of Gwandenges or Ndwedwe or Nkandla, you know. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I think, is about capacitating community stations, because you'll find that sometimes the idea is there and the founders have the vision, but not necessarily the know-how. And then they operate it like a spaza shop. No offense. So sometimes your vision exposes your limitations. So you're able to say, to articulate what you would like to see happening, but you can't operationalize it. But you're holding on, you're now micromanaging and trying to be a jack of all trades, but miserably failing in all of them. So I think if you can address those two, then I think it becomes easier. I really don't know what is the cure, but community stations need funding. Because what happens sometimes, you find that they're fishing the same waters. Quick example. Inanda and Kwamashu are neighboring townships, but they're also community stations, Vibe and Inanda FM. But the broadcast are heard in the same area. What are the chances that if they go and look for advertising, it might cut across? Is that sustainable? Or is the model now online? Online has its own costs, because ultimately your costs become not so much your operational costs in terms of keeping the lights on, but more stipend, malio petrol.
That's true.
But so I think there's the capacity issue, but the more pressing one is the finances, because they've had to adopt a business model where previously they could get by without worrying about their signal being cut off and focusing on the talent.
That's true.
So I just want to ask a follow-up question on that. When it comes to management of the radio stations like your community and needing the funding, do we then look at the hierarchy of management in terms of the board, the operations manager, station manager. How does that work out in terms of making a community station work?
Yeah.
So, like anything, I think it's good to have something you can call your own,
Yeah.
or something that your community can be proud of, like a station. Because a station mirrors its location, it mirrors the people it's trying to serve, right?
Yeah.
However, you need to run it like a business. And so it's the right people in the right place. And there are some positions you can't shortchange, right? Anybody can be a station manager in terms of admin, because you need somebody who's switched on in terms of business acumen. But when it comes to things like content, it's a specialist position, right? Then there's got to be somebody, so you need somebody who's a programming person at heart. And then you also need somebody who's an admin person to feed into the vision and understand the trends and understand what we should be doing, what we should be focusing on, where we need to develop, capacitate, recruit, retrain, and all those other sweet things. You know, what are the partnerships we need to have in order to sustain the business?
Yeah.
But too often you find that the one person has many hats. And it goes back to that story of like you're trying to do too many things when you should focus on one. Because radio, like any media, it's art and science. You have the person who's like the technocrat and the person who understands the art. And it comes back to something which we might hopefully have time to get into, where you can't buy, import, or pretend to have talent when you don't have. And then package us and sell it as something that's real when it's not.
Yeah.
Hashtag influencers.
Actually, that goes very well into the question that I have for you right now. It's, do you think that social media following now plays a more important role than actual radio talent?
It does and it doesn't.
Okay.
It shouldn't, but it does. So, we were discussing before the show started about the kind of the speed at which technology has evolved over the years. And your eyes were popping out when I was telling you the things I've lived through that you have no idea what I'm talking about.
That's true.
You know, so in my day, when we needed the internet, we found the internet in books in the library, right? Fast forward to where we are right now. A lot of people will be shocked when we tell them that like your Facebook and your WhatsApps are not even 20 years old. So how did people survive before then? You have a concept of what's called legacy media. Legacy is like the good old media like radio, print, and TV. That's what they call legacy media, right? Now, what has evolved is that because of the change in how people consume media, their habits, and their behavior, we have had to adapt. So it's like me asking you, when's the last time you read a newspaper? When's the last time you opened a magazine? When you look for news, where do you go first?
Yeah.
It's no longer your traditional TV, radio, print, right? It's now found in the social media domain. So lots of eyes are there. Now the question becomes, what has radio's response to that been? I'll be honest, also one of those, when I want to figure out what's happening in the world, my phone is by my side. I look at what's trending, what's news, right? Not necessarily on radio.
Yeah.
And I look at what's trending, et cetera, right? Now, firstly, how many people behave like me? Probably a lot. The number is growing, it's not going to slow down. So social media is a big thing. what's also happened is that the things that get attention on social media are ridiculous things. You can trend just bumping your head into a glass door you didn't see. All of a sudden you're famous, you become an influencer, right? And then one discovers that you're very, very clumsy and you're always dropping things and you become popular.
Yeah.
Now, social media, when things trend there, two things happen. The first is that you get attention, right? Yeah. That's the first problem or threat to radio, is that it steals the attention away from radio to social media. Okay. In time, the person who advertises on radio would go, hey, by me spending money on this station, 100,000 people get to hear my ad. Yeah. But if I spend it with this clumsy person on social media, they get 10 million likes and views. What decision am I going to make? It's obvious, right?
Pretty obvious, yeah.
So that is where the threat is in social media. The problem is if you then do it backwards and say, hey, that clumsy person, let me bring them on to the radio station such that instead of the person, people looking at them there, they'll get to experience them here. So on paper, it's a good idea. Yeah. In practice, their 10 million followers don't join the station. Because if that was true, all the influencers on any radio station would have blown listenership figures to hundreds of millions, but it doesn't happen. So it doesn't translate. The reason they do that is twofold. One is to get your ears off them there, back here. Secondly is to get the revenue they're losing there, back here. The revenue is also constructed in such a manner that the station is able to say, hey, look, we've got underscore Mabuyazo on the station. Yeah. So please put money into the station. So it's an ears and revenue struggle. The bigger problem for me is that when you import somebody with no talent into a craft, you diminish the value of that medium. That's right. So then what happens is we get a lot of 4th, 15th rate radio that's making money supposedly, but it's just a disservice and quite frankly an insult to the people listening. So one step further. So your prospect more wants to join the radio station, and at the interview they'll ask more, what is your social media following?
First thing.
So the question is to your point, is that necessary? My belief is simple. When I was in a position to hire, I always look at the social media, because on your social media, you're yourself.
Yes.
Going back to the point of being authentic. What are you really like? What are the buttons you push? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? Where are you comfortable? Where can you relate? Where can we position you? 'Cause it's like football. We need a right winger. Do you play right wing? Are you a goalkeeper? Can we bring you in as a substitute to do magic, etc.? So for me, it's about, you need to know and be present on social media. I don't care if you've got 100 million followers or not. Because my first question is, are you talented? Because too often, the story is to parachute people with no talent, but lots of followers, and then figure out that they'll figure it out on the way.
On the way.
If anybody wants an example of whether hiring influencers, more than one, at the same time, in the same show, and seeing if it'll work, who remembers a show called Whose Show Is It Anyway? There was Kanyimbao, there was Somizi, there was Ihashele Mhlope's daughter, I forget her name. All celebrities.
In one show.
It was a Ndom, I think. It was a mess. It was a disaster because of their popularity and social media following. They should have brought their followers there. SABC, Metro specifically, has never lost listeners like they lost during that time. So if anybody needs to ask the question, does hiring an influencer work? It doesn't. But here's my T's and C's. It says, if you're talented and you're an influencer, I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
But if you're an influencer and you have no talent, you have no business being on radio.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
No.
At all. So talking now about talent and the qualities that actually make one talented enough to be on radio, and we're looking at social media and the effect that it has. We are in a social media age, you know, and let's just give an example of our community radio station. We are seeing that they want to have a bigger following. They want to have a bigger listenership as well. Do we then deem talent that is not there from the social media influencers moving into radio? Is that really dimming the light of radio nowadays? Because the first thing we do when we get to a car is connect our Bluetooth, play music off whatever music streams that we have. It's not really about, I want to listen to that song for the first time on radio, it being unexpected. You always know what to play next. So are we really losing that aspect of radio that is exciting and unexpected?
So this is when I put on my teacher hat and my storytelling hat.
Bring it to us, let him cook.
There used to be a store called CNA.
Yes.
And this I'm going to steal from a talk and an article I wrote for World Radio Day 2 years ago. And the payoff line for CNA was first with the goodies. And my argument was that the problem with the radio, it's no longer first with the goodies. Radio birthed superstars. Radio was first with music.
Yes.
Radio was first with gossip and scandal and news and all those things. So radio has lost all that. To your point, new songs break elsewhere,
Yes.
then come onto radio and
Yes.
fight to be on radio. So then the question literally you're asking is like, why do people still listen to radio?
Yes.
Yeah.
Knowing that everything they need, they can get elsewhere. Right? Because, I mean, you get into, like, me finding my way here, GPS. You know?
Point blank.
Latest song. What's trending? Who's ha?
Yep.
YouTube. Okay. Sorted. So why would I listen to radio? It's because the answer is a simple, fundamental truth about this planet of ours. It's because we're humans.
Sure.
We want to relate to other humans.
True.
It's like another question, which maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I think it feeds into the debate or discussion. It's about, there is so much AI can do, but there's also a lot that AI will
Cannot
never
do.
able to.
Yeah.
You see my point. So it's about that human connection, relatability, somebody, because we human beings aspire for lots of things.
Yes.
But I think that the thing they aspire the most for is connectivity.
All the time. All the
It's
time.
it's what binds us. You know, we want to be able to feel for and feel something. There's an old saying in radio, which also applies to the issue about talent. When you're on air, make people feel something.
Yes.
Feel happy, feel sad, feel something. Because if you come onto a show, start at 9, you finish at 12, and you leave me the same way you found me, you've got no impact.
Then it's not.
So radio is also about feeling. One, feeling connected to something. Because a playlist doesn't say anything to you. It's fine for you. It's like road tripping music. But after a while, like, okay, what's happening in the world? And I want to hear it from another human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a cold text from AI saying it thinks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
With no emotion, no connection, nothing at all.
You know what I mean? So whatever people may have to say negatively about radio is the face that makes us and keeps us human at all times.
That's true.
The form changes, but it's about what makes us who we are. In fact, somebody was saying the other day, and for a couple of days ago, that I hope I don't forget this point. That radio changes, but it remains the same. People think that just because the social media, it doesn't mean it's competing, it's actually complementing.
Yeah.
You just need to be smart about how you embrace it and make it part of the ecosystem as opposed to one or the other.
Yeah.
You know. Now, let me just drive straight ahead to something I don't know if people are aware of, because you touched on social media. It's about podcasts.
Yes.
Here's the point. I don't know if people are aware of Mac G.
I think everyone is aware of Mac G. Like,
But wait, I'm still cooking. So, Mac G went from zero to hero, right? Did his whole 1 million subscribers thing, right? And then, most recently, what happened? DSTV put his channel on TV. So they took the podcasters onto TV. And yes, now that's kind of unraveled. But that is going to go down in history. Because if you're switched on and listening, you'll figure out what's happened. So it's like people have been saying radio is competing with social media. Social media is also competing with print, like I mentioned, and also competing with TV.
yes.
So how desperate must TV be to go and get social media in? So when I say, when you realize what MacG, it's a defining moment about where this battle is, what we should be doing, what we could be doing, which sectors are competing, which are complementing.
Yeah.
And when I go one step deeper, like I normally say, what MacG does is not complicated. It's simple, but it's very effective. What MacG does is expose radio personalities for their poor interviewing skills.
Oh, that's deep.
Oh, I'm levels.
Oh, that's deep.
Because a lot of people say, when I ask them, why do you think MacG is popular? Oh, it's because he swears. Got nothing to do with that. He's able to disarm the people he interviews to be free to tell him things they wouldn't tell him otherwise.
So it goes back to then relating with a human being.
Relatability.
That's true.
And now what stations have now started doing is like they'll interview somebody on air and then say, oh, for the full length, catch us on the podcast. Some people get it right, some get it wrong. So what he's done is to expose a fundamental truth of radio is the business, but you need people who are able to execute the business. And like I was actually listening to an interview I did on DOR,
Yeah.
2001, and I mustn't forget this point. What were we talking about?
Radio,
Mac
its
G,
influence,
radio.
unpacking,
Yes.
unarming
Going.
how interviewees do not have that skill to actually ask
Yes.
questions.
It's gonna come back. Doesn't matter.
Just to say, I was 2 in 2001. Just to say, I was 2 in 2001, so you can already imagine.
Happy birthday.
So I wanted to know, for those who want to go or pursue a radio career, what are some of the misconceptions that people might have of the platform of radio?
Some of them.
I don't think anybody's got a misconception about radio.
Yes.
The same way, I'm arguing both sides of the question,
Yeah.
but you'll see what I mean. The same way, there are very few misconceptions about TV.
Okay.
It's like asking somebody, "Wow, would it be great to be on TV?" Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then you ask why. It's the same thing, because it's a medium. You become popular. It comes with perks. Everybody knows you,
Yeah.
and. The problem is that we've come to the greatest trick ever played on people was
Yeah.
what's the show? Idols.
How so?
In that we are fooled into believing that anybody can sing. The same way everybody thinks anybody can do radio. But it goes to the point I made earlier that because of influencers in part, people now think anybody can do radio. So when they ask you, so what is your qualification to be on radio? And you tell me I've got 10 million Instagram followers, I'd be like, what?
That's your qualification?
Is that it?
Yeah.
So I'd say have the talent. Now the question is, who defines talent?
That's exactly what I was about to
So
ask.
if it's your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your parents always want you to do well. They'll
And they're
never tell
always
you,
going to say that you're doing well. That's the thing.
It's the one.
So on that, you know, we obviously stay with our loved ones, family members,
Yeah.
who we
I'm
then
so
go
sorry about
back
that.
to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry as well, you know, who we then ask, like this morning we shared it with them, hey, I'm going to be live at 9 a.m.,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
tune in, comment, do what you need to do. Do we then depend on that? I know we're not supposed to, but when it is then told to us, Uguti, you're a good presenter, and you're being told by your mom or your brother, are they actually seeing you for the presenter, or are they being empathetic, relating to me as a human being? Uguti, I think you're presenting well.
Short answer, yes. Going back to your question, which links
Yeah.
in that people who are in the entertainment industry, it's the glamour industry, right?
Yeah.
Don't want you to get in.
They don't.
Yes. Yes.
They don't.
They are gatekeepers, but they won't tell you the gatekeepers.
That's right.
Not all of them, because ultimately, at the end of the day, if there's the big thing is to be a presenter for, I don't know, Big Brother. There's only one Big Brother. There's only one show. So why would I say, hey, if you want to be a presenter, come take my job? It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
It's a dog-eat-dog world, right? So we need a system or a process whereby you can get constructive criticism from the right places. Bearing in mind that people are sensitive beings, if you come to me and ask me and I tell you there's no hope, you must be able to say, well,
Okay, that's
maybe I'm
fine.
good at something else.
Yeah.
But there's also be that humane part to say, how do I tell you in a manner that's constructive? Or I'll also be told, Makhosi is just stuck up. He's also a gatekeeper. It's about where do you find the right voices. Now, you can take a professional's point of view, this guy, or you can let people be the judge. How so? By putting yourself out on social media. It's an amazing thing. How many careers do you know of talented people have been born on social media? Because A, they invest in themselves.
Yes.
They tell people their journey, their goals, their wishes, their ambitions. And then people get to feedback.
Yeah.
Somehow, somebody in the know says, hey, maybe there's something there. As opposed to, oh, please, I've got my cousin, my nephew who's talented. Please listen to his demo. Let me do it myself. Hence, to the other point, because I like connecting dots,
A lot. You're cooking, sir.
is that if you believe in yourself, you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Build it and they will come. So build yourself. Now, quick story. I discovered somebody who you might know. I'll say 2 words, Penny Dooley. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a story there.
There's a big story.
So I hired Penny Dooley,
Yes.
but they fought me initially not to hire her. It's a lot of issues, but I'll break them down by just saying Penny did a demo on social media about how she wanted to get into Kakas, right? Everybody saw it. It went from 0 to 1 million.
Very
And
quickly.
I was like, hey, guys, there's something here, right? And for whatever reason, they weren't keen. And then I was like, guys, there's something here.
there.
Long story short, I managed to get her in. Now, the process, how she got in is what's important. Just going back to my point of, I saw that video where she was imitating, I think, or she was taking over from Sonic and was playing the song, wada, 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 wada. What did I do? I went to her social media to say, I've seen the post where you want to do this, but what are you really like? And there's a couple of things I found, but the important one for me was that I discovered she had also previously posted something that didn't trend and do 1 million, or I think actually that particular video of hers is now on 2 million or whatever. She was in her car, and she was, I think, trying to recruit people or tell people about a radio training academy or whatever the case was. So she was saying to people, you know what, I can sponsor X amount of people, but you need to have the talent and. She was sitting in her car and she was on a live for 15 minutes. Do you know how difficult it is to be on a live for 15 minutes and talk sense?
It is.
It's very difficult.
But can you imagine how much you'll actually learn of the person in a live over 15 minutes? That's the penny I saw. It's not the video.
Yeah.
The video was a knock. I'm like, hello, hi. And then I say, okay, cool, I'll figure it out. So those are the things where if you believe in yourself, put yourself out there. The same way Mac G on his own put himself out there, not to be hired, but to create his own empire.
That's true. That's true. So you first hear from the people, and then everyone else will follow suit. That's a really great one.
It is.
Yeah.
I want to take it back to social media presence and how it relates to radio. We're speaking about Penintuli, right? And how we have social media influencers going into radio, doing well, and then now we have them going into live television. Making your social media work with the work that you have on radio, that needs to gel, right? And remember you said when you mentioned Penintuli and I looked at you and you're like, there's a story. I want to find out your social media presence and how you continue to do that. How does it affect your career on radio? Because on radio, we're not seeing her face, we're just hearing her voice. But on TV, we are seeing the person that she is from the things that she says and her actions. How can that gel?
Well, ultimately, it depends on who are you. What people may not know about Penny, she's a PR person first.
Yes.
The radio thing's later. So people now see the other way around. It's just that the one is blowing up more than the other one. If you look at her bio, she's actually a PR person. She does PR for people.
Yes.
And that is what came before radio. So radio didn't make her, it magnified her.
Okay.
You see, the same way when you look at where she used to work and where she works now, that has now magnified her more. Because where she is now, they were able to exploit the talent she has, because previously where she was, they couldn't.
Yes.
Either because they didn't find space or whatever the situation is. So that is about, it's about finding what social media does for you. Social media tends to do a couple of things.
A lot. A lot.
Let's do 2.5. The first is an alternative platform to market yourself. Because marketing is everything now, right? The same way back in the day, now you're going to tell me you were 6 when this song dropped. When,
Just drop the year and I'll let you know.
DJ Clear said, I don't need your number, so sign on Facebook.
Sorry, I wasn't born yet.
But you see, the point is that no. I'll find out about you on Facebook. That's your calling card. The same way, same DJ Cleo said, if you want to find out about the work I do, look at all the songs I've produced. By then he'd work with Mendoza and. So it's a business card. It's where you advertise your services. Now, how much you advertise, how much you sell is a different story. One of my favorite presenters right now, he must not pay me because I say this every podcast I get to, is Felix. For many reasons. But in this particular instance, it's about, he's a comedian at heart. And I used to marvel at this. I'm preaching now. So you in the good old days, even now, the lots of entertainers, particularly comedians, don't encourage you to record their shows because the jokes they say on stage are their current jokes. So if people have seen the joke, why must they pay to see it?
Yeah, true.
But where we are now, you need to advertise yourself. And you advertise yourself by saying or showing us what you do. So you need to give stuff for free in order to reap more.
Yeah.
And similarly, like Penny in the Live in 15,
Yeah.
Felix is very good at that. He'll go on a live from home to work and vice versa. And that's intriguing.
Of course, it's Felix. It is
You see?
intriguing.
So he uses that to draw into the personality. You discover, oh, some people only know him as a comedian, others know him as a radio person.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's to enhance what it is exactly you do. So it's like how somebody said about being an author. Being an author, writing books, it's not about the book. The book allows you to do more of what you do already.
Yeah.
So social media allows you to do more of what you do already. So if you're into teaching, teach more. If you're into gardening, if you're into cooking, cook. You know what I mean? But it is ideal that it should be aligned.
Sure, the alignment is important.
It is.
It is
You see,
so important.
So that's a management issue.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, I'm must I be a gentleman?
No, it's okay.
Yes, don't be a gentleman. It's about how different platforms serve different groups for different reasons.
Yeah.
I get lots of complaints about the amount of time I post and repost and retweet things.
You get complaints?
And I'm cooking. Because it's silly things like, how can you afford to spend so much time on social media reposting all these things? But then there's that famous caption or post, I don't know who takes the credit, to say, don't confuse what I post to what I actually believe and what I'm actually doing.
Exactly.
The amount of useful things I found on social media, I don't post, I keep it to myself. It's a library.
It is.
Quick story. I used to go to the library to read comics. A lot of people went there to study. It's the same thing like internet. It's about what you do with what you're given. So social media gives to you, if you're aware of how powerful it is.
Yeah.
It's a tool. The same way now, technically, you don't have to go and study in an institution, because everything you need to know about everything and
It's
anything
available.
is available. So how you use social media to advance what you do, to align it with whatever it is you want to do, or expose people to other things that you can't do in your day job.
Yeah.
Because
Makes
some people
sense.
might not know you have a CSI thing, you have this, and the other going. That's what social media is. You must be able to play with it, and if you don't know, ask people who know, PR specialists like yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Khoza, for that. As we speak about all things radio, as well as how to advance what you do on social media. That's a really important one, or gem rather, that I've heard out of many so far. So more, any exciting comments there in the comment section?
We actually do have some exciting comments. He did say that we should let him cook. So that's exactly what we're going to do. The comments have said we have Ufaida Crowd saying, Makhosi, you are making a solid point about radio drawing people who have no talent. We see it happen too often in the industry, which essentially drops the bar so low that anyone can become a presenter. We also have another comment saying from Egg Benedict on TikTok rather, Makhosi Khoza, the man your man should sound like. We have competition somewhere here.
There's a story there.
I want that story. I told you I'm going to let you cook for a bit, you know. Another comment from TikTok, we have Opa who says, that is what I personally don't take family compliments seriously from strangers. Yes, I agree with that one because a stranger doesn't know you from a bar of soap. They are going to judge you on what it is that you're presenting to the table.
Yes.
You know how they ask us women, what do you bring to the table? That's what they do.
Drizzle.
Drizzle, I bring. So apparently they're saying you are the man our men should sound like.
You seem surprised. No. So the story there is radio is a creative medium. If you can't create, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And if you can't create, find a lane. If you want to remain in the medium, find a lane that can accommodate you and leave the creativity to other people. Radio should be in the what I've written about. It's the content. We're in the content creation space,
True.
right? Some content is already there. It's already cooked and prepared. We just need to serve.
Yeah.
But other content we need to cook. What's my point? Are we allowed to name drop brands? Yes? No?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So
Perfectly fine.
Old Spice
Yeah.
had a campaign going,
Yeah.
and the tagline was, I think the man your man should smell like.
Yes.
Oh, you actually do sound like that.
Hey!
Spicy! Spicy!
So do you play into that character that people have taken your voice to be?
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'll come back to the point. So what happened was I think I was moving to a new show, and I needed a new slogan for the show. Okay. So that was actually created by Michael Zuma, a production engineer. He was like, no, I've got it.
Yeah.
The man your man should sound like. And when I had a car sponsorship, holla back, I even had it on my car. So that was the man your man should. So it kind of made sense in terms of a radio thing, because everybody's like, ooh, the voice and stuff. And I was like, oh, it works. But to your point about I don't know. Because I try to be as authentic as possible. So
Yes.
if you meet me outside and I don't sound like I'm sounding now, then there's a problem. I'm trying to be something else. And too often people think what they have is not good enough because people have not recognized or told them that the thing they think is holding them back is the thing that's going to make them different.
Yes.
Now it's where I name drop again. Tibo Touch does not have the greatest radio voice in the world. And there was silence in the studio.
The silence is like,
the pin dropping?
we agreeing the pin dropped, the haystack covered it.
But he uses what he has to get to where he is and to become the man he thinks he is. Because Tibo
Thinks
Touch
he
is
is?
the man he thinks he is.
Okay.
So he thinks in his head he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And every time he gets an opportunity on mic, he plays into that role.
Yeah.
He's very loud. He's very opinionated.
Very.
He name drops. He lets you know who he's been chatting to. And they're big names. I mean, everybody remembers when Floyd Mayweather came to town. Who was his scrub? Lastly, do you know that Tibo Touch is a PK? He's the son of a preacher. Who is the guy who created, I think it's half an hour, an hour of gospel music on an afternoon drive show? Has that ever been done? Tibo Touch. So there are many things, there are many positives
Yeah.
that help to deal with the negatives that you might. I could go on. Like Gareth Cliff had a dull voice, but he's very provocative. He's like off the jock kind of variety. Yeah. I mean, there's some people right now who I'm even scared to mention that I hate them on radio. I'm like, yo.
Frustrates you.
You know what I mean? But it's my personal feelings.
Yeah.
But they're popular somewhere. And then there are other people who just shouldn't be on radio, but because of other reasons and influencer or they like them or wada, they're still there. And then I've had also discussions about how people think presenter X has been on radio for too long. They should make way for other people. And I'm like, based on what reason?
Yeah.
You see, because radio is a lot of people, I think, misunderstand that it's not a guaranteed permanent contract. Every year, every 2 or 3 years, you need to renew.
Changes.
So if you're still living up to the purpose, relating to your brand, in America, you find 77-year-olds on radio.
That's true.
But here, after a while, hey, open the industry. For what? You make your own industry.
Yes, and I see many people are taking that make your own industry. So they've created their own spaces on platforms such as TikTok, Facebook, so on and so forth. So, Mr. Khoza, I think you should loosen up your tie a little bit. We're going to be playing a bit of a game.
We're going to cook now.
Yes,
My
let us
tie is
cook.
going nowhere.
Loosen it up a little bit. So we're going to play a game called Mic Drop
Yep.
or Mic Pass. So we're going to read out a statement, and if you agree with the statement, you're going to say mic drop. And if you disagree with the statement, you're going to say, Mike, pass. We also would like for you to elaborate why you agreed or disagree with this particular statement.
Is the tie still going to stay on?
Let's see.
This is at the top button, at least.
So, going into the first one, influencers couldn't survive a real radio shift.
Mic drop.
Why?
Is that an agreement, right?
Yes.
That's an agreement.
Because radio is a craft. The same way radio is talent-based. If you don't have the talent, then you have no business being on radio. So you can take your influencers and take your influencers.
So we should keep them.
Keep them where they are. You know.
Next question is, a great voice is not enough anymore.
Oh! Drop.
No, I really want to hear this, and I think we can let it out.
So, you know the story about the man you're meant to sound like?
Yes.
Radio has evolved.
Yeah.
In the good old days, you just needed the voice. And you should be on radio hired.
Yeah.
Now, the same way, if you bring just your influencer numbers to me, I look at you the same way. If you just bring your voice, I'm like, okay, and? We spoke off air about how a lot of people have great voices, but don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Your voice is an instrument. If you don't know how to play with it, you can only get so far. In certain places, that is about as, in certain places you'll get in on that. I think there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
So it has moved, and fortunately I've been part of that movement, or have been there to witness the movement from, take a step back. So, sorry, you asked me, so I'm here. Unpacking my wisdom.
Unpack.
Where radio has evolved from announcers, presenters, talent, content creators. So if you just have a voice, you're just an announcer. So you don't need to say anything special.
Yeah.
Now, the T and C about that is that there are certain shows on radio which just need you to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You are listened to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Time check, and you move on.
Yeah.
Rest his soul. Eddie Zondi had a great voice.
Dead.
But would you ever put him on a drive time show?
No.
I was about to say we all know the answer, but yeah, the crowd went wild. If all you bring is the voice, you are narrowing your options.
Okay.
In my world. If you bring talent, you're increasing your options.
Yeah.
If you're a content creator, you are living in the now.
Talking about then living in the now, the next statement reads, radio will never die, it just evolves with the times.
Drop.
Drum roll.
So the times, like I think we discussed earlier.
Yes, we did.
Times have seen social media.
Yep.
Times have seen influencers, but radio's still here. We're about, 60 million odd in South Africa? Just under 40 million people listen to radio. 70% of people listen to radio listen to an SABC station.
Yes.
And that number has been more or less consistent. The number of people who were viewing podcasts in 2023 were about, what is it now? How many million was it now? I forget the figure.
Keeps on changing anyway.
I had the figure. I think it was about, whatever the figure is. Anyway, the point is, and it's growing.
Yeah.
Now, if everybody who's predicting the end of radio was correct, then the figures should have dropped dramatically. However, what they forget to factor in is that just because I view a podcast doesn't mean I don't listen to the radio. Also, the beauty of radio is that it's something that can be in the background.
True.
Whereas podcasts need you to focus. Radio can happen when life is happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Podcasts, you must focus on podcasts and nothing else. So it's quite possible for them to coexist, where you listen to your favorite presenter in the morning, and in the afternoon, when Mac G or whoever drops a podcast, you're watching the podcast.
Yeah.
So both media are gaining.
Yes, no, that's true. That's true. Commercial radio limits creativity more than it encourages it.
Mic drop,
You agree?
but also mic pass.
Okay.
Okay.
So if there's a fence, I'm sitting on it.
Yeah.
It's a mic drop in the sense that the way radio has changed now, particularly commercial radio, by definition, commercial radio needs to make money.
Yeah.
If we can't sell it, it shouldn't be there. Some people will argue that we've gone too far in what even going to start selling people coughing. But money is money, right?
Yeah.
Jacaranda, I think they published recently, made 1.2 billion rand last year. East Coast, no, I lied. 94.7, just over a billion. Jacaranda, 600 million.
Yeah.
East Coast also in the 600 million mark.
Yes.
Metro, 297 million. Ukozi, just over 200 million. Right? So if there's an opportunity to sell something, we're going to sell it. The problem is, do you want to tune into a station that sounds like classifieds?
No.
But at the same time, do you understand how much money the station needs to make to be alive? One. Two, maybe the people who own the station are making too much profit and we need to decrease the profit.
Yeah.
But. I mean, for example, there's a story about Anele getting 500,000 a month. But if your station makes 1 billion,
Chai.
then you look at the other side of the coin where the SABC is losing money, right? In fact, what's interesting is as a recent study showed, SABC 1, Metro, Ukhozi, and let's say the other only entities in the SABC that make money. Only. So SABC 2, SABC 3 lose money. 5 and Good Hope don't make money. Kuala Kuala doesn't make money. And when they don't make money, who needs to pay?
Yeah.
It's ultimately the taxpayer. And then there's another leg of the argument which says, I hope I'm not running away with, there's this thing of the president that's in the news right now,
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Yes.
So in the state, there's also what they call national public radio. It's like a public broadcaster.
Yeah.
And he wants to defund them, which means he wants to stop giving them money to exist because he doesn't like things they say about him or his administration. So it made me think about, imagine a South Africa without SABC. Who would lose?
SABC.
No, but do we need SABC in its current size? Because if you've got 18 radio stations
Yeah.
and plus the TV stations, etc., and only 4 entities are making money,
Yeah, no, that doesn't make business sense.
Can you imagine a future where, for example, we're going to say, there was this big joke about how, let's say, Abagosibisi and Abagosibiya, they must have a family meeting and have only one surname. So you look at as a future where there's the Nguni stations, maybe 2 Nguni stations, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have, if ukhuluma isiZulu, neSwati, neSxhosa, you can be one family, right? Then you have Tswana and Sotho, then maybe Pedi and. So therefore, you've just decreased the number of stations.
True.
Because my question is, ultimately, yes, you want to hear your language because it's your culture, etc. But if you hear the news, 1 or 2 programs, do we need a whole station if it's not making money?
No, we don't.
You see, so that's a debate maybe people are not prepared to hear. But I'm saying if you're thinking futuristically,
Yeah.
And there's a need for government to be able to, carry out its mandates of social cohesion, people knowing things. I mean, State of the Nation, I mean, if all of a sudden 947 says like, yeah, okay, it's a new era. We've only now got 4.5 stations on the SABC. You want us to flight State of the Nation, it's going to cost you R1 million. But they've saved the R1 million because they've sold all the other stations, because they can be commercialized. But do they need to be so many?
It's a conversation that we can continue to go into quite a lot. And again, I'm going to keep on saying this because we want you to cook. I think I have a new set of a show that I want us to do. So after this, we're going to go live again.
No
and
problem.
then start from scratch.
I'm here.
Right? So we can dive deep into everything.
I'm here, unlike other black people, I can swim.
So we're going to take a look at the comment section again. We have Sint. Andile Sint is here. And of course, Sint, we want you to also let us know. And he says, morning VM Network family. Nice vibe in studio today. The show is very entertaining and engaging. Sint is always here. And last week, he was actually surprised because it was the first time we were doing a show together. And then he said in the comment section, oh, Mo and Andile are here. And we were so excited. So it's very nice to see you.
I thought you guys have done this. No, you guys are gelling.
This is literally our first full show together, so it's very exciting. We're cool.
Happy birthday.
We bring in the age back again.
Yeah.
So we've heard your concern, your industry, and your ideas, your experience as well.
Yep.
We want to then know, you're also an author, right? What is next? Which Makhosi can we then begin to experience?
Sure. So I did say I'm a content creator at heart, because I'm very restless.
At heart?
Yes.
Okay.
And very restless. So at any given point, I have lots of ideas in my head. But just to take you through, the very first book I ever wrote was my memoir. So that's my life story. That was easy. Easy in the sense, easy and difficult. Sorry. Easy in that I know the person I was writing about very well because I've known them all my life.
Of course.
But the time from having the idea to write to actually finishing the book was long because life was happening. But I literally started the book, did like 30%. And then one weekend, I just finished everything. So I have a memoir, I have a book on radio content creation, and another book I've co-written about the challenges of working in corporate. Because there's a lot of things they don't, it's like, you know that Tyler Perry movie, Why Did I Get Married?
Yes.
Or things I should know before I get married kind of vibe. So it's like if people were to warn us ahead of time, then we'd go there with a sober mind, like, oh, this is what's going to be like. So those are the books I've written so far. There's another one that's coming. The first one is going to be, have you ever heard of the what they call frozen shoulder syndrome?
I've actually heard of it.
So one day, maybe 18 months ago, I got up out of bed and discovered my left arm was very stiff. It couldn't move. And I thought, okay, maybe I slept badly or whatever the case was. I was having a nightmare that I hit the lotto numbers, won $1 billion, and I lost off ticket, whatever. And then I thought, no, after a week I'd shake it off. Nothing happened. And then eventually I saw a physio, and there were a lot of things like this I couldn't do for the longest time. Now I'm actually back up to, believe it or not, about 70% functionality. There's certain things, like, you know, when they say put your arms behind,
Yes.
I can't do that with my left arm. So I want to write about that because when of the many physios I saw, one of them said, and I backed this up with research, that one of the things you need to look at is your posture. Because posture is very important in terms of making sure your body is properly aligned. That's true. Right? And then I was like, I saw my mom, I'm gonna write a book about posture. Like, okay, that's great, son. I was like, no, there's a double meaning to posture. There's the other meaning of posture, which is body language, how you position yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna link my injury and recovery to the posture and body language and examine the mechanics that are at play that either improve our posture or weaken it. The same way when you run, like we talked about, I mean, recently there's been comrades, right?
Yes.
Your posture is very important. Your core's got to be strong.
Yeah.
Your glutes have got to be very strong. A lot of things we do when we are alive as human beings, we take for granted, but there's a whole concert happening. So that's the first book. The second one is going to be about local content. And I'm going to use references to Claudio Mutsoning and an era I lived, which was Capital Radio. Capital Radio back in the day, sorry, another quick history lesson. So I joined Capital 90, so you're not alive. 93, 4.
Yeah.
And just before then, there was, Capital Radio used to broadcast on the South Beach. And there was an era where they decided, hey, you know what? Let's have a lot of music from the motherland. So from West Africa, East Africa, a lot of it, on what was typically an urban format. And that era was called Afritude. So it became like literally 100% African local music. And I want to compare and contrast the two and figure out what are the lessons in terms of what do we learn from local content. You know, and there are other titles that are always spinning in my head that I might make shorter articles because writing a book is like a project. You need to plan not only to, because finishing the book is not a problem. You need to have time to market that, give it time to breathe before you go into the next one.
Yeah.
True.
Or who knows, I might just surprise you and drop 2 books at the same time.
Please
Yeah.
surprise us.
Okay,
Please
done.
surprise
I
us.
love
I'm asking
challenges.
very nicely.
No, I love challenges. I
Yeah.
love challenges.
So
you know,
you're someone that that has written many books.
Yep.
And is still continuing to write. For someone who would like to pick up one of your books, which would be the first one you would recommend and why?
My memoir, Ngizolalela Emsakazweni.
Yes.
Many reasons. So I wrote the book because, and I speak about this, that the aha moment was when I was sitting down minding my business, discovered that I had been on radio for 21 years at the time. Like, hey, that's a special age. Maybe let me just put this into context, into a book.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to write the book and aim it for people who only knew me about radio. I wanted it to be like a life story. That's the second reason. The third reason is it was my first attempt. So judge me all you want, but I'm an author. So, and I always strive for the books that follow to be much better. So there's long sentences, there might be typos. So I want them to see that if there's something you want to accomplish, it only works if you start.
True.
So I've made the start. You can't finish what you haven't started. So that is where I'd recommend they start.
Any collaborations in the future with any of your books?
Hey, that's a deep question because I have undertaken a collaboration, but I'm not going to go back to that in a hurry. So I'd like to publish at least 3 more books before we start entertaining the idea. The thing about collaborating, it's you've got to be on the same page, same mind.
True.
And just as a side note, when I'm about to write a book, the first thing I do is to stop reading other people's books, because subconsciously it starts to influence how you think and how you write, and you must always be consistent with your voice. So yeah, collaborations will be there, but not in a hurry. I just want to get my books out there.
You just want to cook.
Give me the pots. Give me the
We are
pots.
handing the whole house to you, sir. At this point, that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
We're going to take a last look at the comments. We have Oprah from TikTok who says, great show and very educative, especially to people like Mina who love and believe in radio. Saint also says, I can hear a wealth of experience when it comes to radio from a Mr. Khoza, and I think in radio, it has reached an era where they have to evolve in this world where we have so much choices on media. Social media is clearly a hot topic in our conversation, and it's big.
You can't ignore it.
Yeah.
The issue is to not be blinded by what it is as opposed to what it represents.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think, ditch everything and only focus on social media. I'm saying focus on where you are and embrace social media.
Yeah.
Here's the trick. The trick is you need to have people who are aware that this is what is out there now. And then ask themselves the next question, which is, do we have the people who can exploit and embrace social media? Yeah. Remember when we were discussing about the journey of how there's a progression of talent to content creators? So you look around, as you would in any football team, to say, do we have in this station people who can exploit social media? If the answer is no, you then either need to hire people who will help them with that, or hire people who are already out there, the undealers of this world.
Yes.
Who are like, no, I can do social media in my sleep. That's what you need. Because otherwise, you'll end up doing what DSTV did and invite Makhosi to come and squat on your platform.
To squat.
To do what? No, it's what it did. No, that's what he did. You see? They just imported, because what did they do? They imported his content. Hence, I'm saying radio should be in the era of content creation.
True.
He's a content creator. He creates content by an interview. It's nothing magical, but it's something that just exposes that you don't have the skill.
That's true.
But you need skilled people. So if you hire influencers who just look pretty, or I don't know, are good at dancing, or whatever the case is, or whatever the particular skill is, it doesn't translate.
Yeah.
It doesn't translate. Now, you then have the to my earlier point, you have people who are popular for being great at radio,
Yeah.
but are not able to embrace this beast called social media.
Yeah.
Now, managers might be scared to push them there, but should be wise enough to say, okay, cool, let's support them. So at least we have a presence. I made the example of certain personalities who are able to do it in their own life because they have a life beyond radio. Because if your life is just radio, you're limiting yourself and the options.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, in my day, I love radio in my day. Ask me why.
Why?
Why are you
Why?
asking me when you're doing the interview? No, I'm kidding. In my day, you could get away with doing a radio show
Yeah.
and disappear and being amongst the crowd because nobody really knew what you looked like. You could pretend to be something. Now, when you drop the mic, you need to be on live.
Yeah.
You need to be holding up certain brands and saying, hey guys,
Yeah.
tune into the network
Yes.
because. Now, so you can't really escape, is my point.
Yeah.
So you need, so being a personality means people have to invade your private space. Are you able to accommodate it in your life?
Yes.
If not, then radio right now is not the place for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as a manager, you need to be aware that these are the people, this is the skill set you should be looking to attract. And if you don't have it, think hard. So when stuff happens, you'll be like, Mr. Khoza said so.
So there's no value in being an enigma anymore. Being a
And unfortunately, the veil has been removed.
True.
So we could play theater of the mind,
Yeah.
right? So now we can, but we need to be smarter about it. So you can't, for example, have, I know DJ Smooth tried it at some point when I think his show on Y was live on Soweto TV.
Yes.
And one of the tragedies was they used to have a kid. I don't know how old the kid was, about 4 or 5, whatever. So he'd start his show and the kid would say amazing things like, oh, this kid is that smart. What happens? Show's live on TV. What's happening? The kid is reading. So he's actually not that smart. He's got a script
Yeah.
in front of him. So it's like, oh, is that what they do?
Sure.
So now the thing you have to do is got to be set up. It's got to be more how you say things, how you deliver them, etc., etc., etc. Which means now you need a high level of thinking.
Yeah.
Now, if your gift is not naturally given, you can't dig into that to get it out of you. The same way I'm assuming, like as an actor and actress, if they say your character has to take a different direction
It does.
and you can't deliver, you're not the one.
At all.
Which reminds me of something. So I watch TV now and then. Current fave includes Inimba. Zenande, I forget her surname, used to be, I think, Goodness on The Queen.
Yes.
She was recently interviewed and said that it's so bad now that, coming to your point of social media, it's so bad that now when she auditions for roles and they ask her about her social media, she says she doesn't have.
I remember that.
Because she says the reason is, put me on tape and see if I have what it takes. So if you can't deliver, there's no way in hell we can. You can't. It's not a craft or medium we can teach you on the job.
No.
You either have it
Or you
or
don't.
you don't,
Yeah.
or you're a rough diamond that we can maybe from graveyard, then slowly grow.
Yeah. But she's privileged enough to say that. I mean, we've seen her in so many soapies over the years. So she can say that. She can say, listen, put me on tape. You know?
True, but I think that it's good for things like that to come from her, because she's actually speaking for those who are still coming up.
Okay.
You see, and also for those who are established, who maybe have not caught up. It's like, for example, it's imagine hiring Seloka Magengube and then asking him, so how many followers do you have on TikTok? I mean, really,
Yeah.
you know, as
Yeah.
opposed to a community station where you say, I'd ask the question, are you on the socials?
Yeah.
Let's see, please, because I mean, besides just asking that, the second reason is if, like I was making the example, one of the things your station sells is like, look, our presenters will go and talk about your product and say, oh, wow, drink more of this, oh wow. So if they don't have a social media presence, how are they going to do that? So it's a skill that you need to have anyway.
Yeah.
It's like black people in 2025 not being able to swim, guys. Are we also going to blame apartheid for that?
Back?
Also blame apartheid for that?
No, we cannot do that anymore. We cannot
Yeah.
at all. So we still have more comments. Opa from TikTok is very active today and I love it. I really, really love it. He says, I also do that with motivation. I don't listen to many because I don't want to find myself imitating them. Fahida Crouch says, that is true. Radio jocks never had a face. It was just voices. Once the curtains closed, we were normal people again.
Yeah.
With a crying face, if I could add.
So this is why I'm not the most handsome guy in the world, because I got a radio voice. And I'm cool with that. But what's interesting, I also mentioned this in the book, is that I think, gosh, I've written so many. Kidding, just 3.
Legend.
That I, growing up, had bad skin. I had pimples, like I'm talking enormous pimples, to the fact that everybody's proud of their graduation photo. Mine is hidden at home.
Hidden.
I had and I wore glasses. I was looking very, very nerdy. The point I'm trying to make is that I also mentioned before, which now you still don't believe, that I'm very shy, that if you're shy and you have problem skin, you're socially awkward.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're forced to be in a social setting, I played a mind trick on myself in that, let me be better and more eloquent and articulate so people listen to what I'm saying as opposed to what they are seeing.
Yeah.
Yes, what I'm trying to say.
That's smart.
But it's like when you look at it, it's like, but there are people looking at you. But in my head, I'm like, no, they're focusing on what I'm saying, not looking at me. So just to put that radio face into context, which is also weird in a way when people like hear, oh, it's this dude, he must look like this. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, can't you win? So there's a flip side to it, you know. Yeah, one of those things, you know. But
Outside of putting a pen to paper, as you've mentioned, you have many, many stories to write about your life. What else is next for you?
So I made the point earlier that I'm only starting to live my life now.
Yes.
Yeah, you did.
Yep.
In that the thing that keeps me going, one, are my kids. So I'm in my legacy era.
He said fave earlier on. I was just like, okay, yeah, no, you're coming to our era now,
Yeah.
and it's nice.
Of setting up something for the kids, because at the moment, the legacy is, touch wood, if anything was to happen to me now, like, oh, your dad was this guy, as opposed to your dad left you this. But similarly, your dad was this guy, going to my earlier point, because he did this for other people. But now I'm the dad who wants to do things for myself.
Yeah.
So I want to do things that I'll be proud of. But I've also seen that I have done myself a disservice. You know, everybody dreams. I think my dream, I have not been dreaming big enough, because pretty much everything I've ever wanted, I've accomplished. So I've got to really push myself. Because, for example, I need to be saying things like, I want to be president. I want to have $1 billion industry,
Yeah.
not rands. Those are the kind of goals I'm looking at. So I don't know, but it's more.
It's
My goal is more. So more in terms of impact,
okay.
influence, and hopefully the rands will follow.
Why are we saying hopefully?
You have a different mindset if you're financially motivated or purpose-driven.
It's true.
Things come as a consequence. It's a byproduct. It's not the end goal.
Yeah.
So I aim to achieve my purpose through people.
Yeah.
Now, other people will call it manipulation, but there's a win-win.
There is a win-win.
There
See?
is.
So if my being here sharing with you, I could have charged you for it. But the point about it is that I understand that I have a purpose. And this benefits not just you, but your audience.
True. True.
And I've said earlier too that your talent is a gift. So when you go to the grave, you'll take it with you. Your talent is for you to exploit it, and other people must benefit.
Yeah.
If you just benefit by your talent, then that's just greed.
Yes.
It's pure greed.
You see,
Pure
and it depending on your personality, because some people that's good enough for them. The same way some people, I mean, I've seen crazy funerals where what was written in the will is that no, bury me with my cars or you're not taking the stuff with you, so why not leave it? That's the first thing. The second thing is about coming to your point about what's next. Is if you're totally, incredibly arrogant about your talent
Yeah.
and your self-belief and your confidence, you give stuff for free
Yes.
because you're able to create more in a heartbeat. Remember the point I was making about how we're in the era of attention now. What gets attention gets a following.
Yeah.
And what gets a following gets revenue.
Yeah.
So you need to give a little to get a lot. And you need to give it for free. Intentionally, with purpose. Deliberately so. Okay? So what I'm sharing with you, I know how this is going to work for me. It's already working for me.
Yeah.
And it will work for you because you'll just be witnessing to the fact that you were there when it happened.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
So there's more surprises.
Yeah.
Always. No, always. Don't confirm me. Don't confirm me. But it's to the point of
Yeah.
Part of me has an imposter syndrome, right? Because I did start by saying that where my radio career is concerned it's only because people told me who I was or who they heard. I was never the one to say, guys, I'm this person, therefore I deserve to be there. I was told, so I just followed. Then there's the other part that says, I'm not dreaming enough, given the platform that radio has given me. Because the ability to communicate, to articulate, to expound, to unpack certain things is a skill.
Yeah.
To do it to amass people is a blessing.
Yeah.
To be able to impact that, to transform people, now that's a gift.
Yes.
Okay, I just made that up. I hope it made sense.
Yeah,
No, it does make sense.
Now I
Associate you.
understand why you feel as if you haven't lived yet, because you mentioned that you used to follow what you were, the instructions that you were given, right? Which was the easy part. So nothing was that challenging for you. So now you want to be challenged. How important is it to be challenged, especially in the entertainment industry?
It all depends.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an easy answer for anything, but sometimes you jump onto a train that's moving.
Yes,
So all you have to do is buckle up.
that's right.
Are there seatbelts on trains?
They are the ones that go around your waist. Some of
I
them.
haven't been on a train in the longest time.
Yeah.
So if you jump onto a train that's moving and it takes you to amazing destinations,
Yeah.
that's all you have to do is sit pretty. But trains have junctions. Trains have options to take different paths. Trains also have stations. At any given point, you can jump off the train. You can jump off the train when you're tired. You can jump off the train to refresh.
Yeah.
You can jump off this train to jump on another train. You can jump off the train to build a station. You can jump off the train to build your own train. So, but the analogy is a moving train in terms of, if you're on an amazing show, you'll only stop being on that train when you're tired. Some people have just done one show and have been incredible at it. Other people have not just done that, but done more. Quick example. Sorry, it can't be. Okay, I'll make local and international example. Kevin Hart, not just a comedian, but he has many, many other shows. He branches into movies. In making movies, creates employment for other people. Same thing with Tyler Perry, right? He could have just done a "Why Did I Want to Get Married?"
And
that
leave it there.
does many more things. Mac G had one podcast. It was his. How many? He's got a network now. You see? So if Mac G only did podcast and chilled, he'd be remembered for that. But now there's popcorn and cheese and all these other little Macs and cheeses that he has everywhere. So it's important in terms of your makeup, how high you set the bar, and also twofold. One, how big you dream. Two, if you allow yourself to dream. Because of your exposure and your limiting self-beliefs, you believe when you've made it, when actually, like Madiba said, it's only when you've climbed a mountain that you see that there are many more mountains to climb.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all have an Everest and a Kilimanjaro. But some people are content with playing in the valleys. Because they'll say, no, I'm a fish, I'm not a bird.
Is that a bad thing?
It's all relative.
Yeah.
The same way when Bafana plays, they need to be playing to a crowd.
True.
So sometimes we're a support system, literally and otherwise. And other times we're players. It depends at the stage we are in life.
Yeah.
You know, because the same way the players need a referee. Referee needs a sponsor.
I just really like the fact that you're referencing football, by the way, because I'm a sports person, so you're making me very happy.
We might fight. What's your favorite team?
I don't like Bafana.
Local
In
team.
football, actually, I don't support any team.
Good answer.
But
Let's adopt you into pirates.
no. Thank you very much. I'm very fine. I'm very fine without supporting any team. We're all good. I'll stick to my netball and just keep it at that. I think this conversation can go on forever and ever and ever. But we are going to finish cooking for today, close the oven, and just give it a go. We have one more comment coming from Ufahira Crowd. She says, Coco Zingeni used to work for Radio Bob, had this beautiful magnetizing voice. You'd imagine a tall, broad-shouldered man. Kanti, he was a cute little opa. Rest in power, Bob Coco.
Are you
We
familiar?
actually spoke about this.
No, I know Bob. Bob on Bob.
Yes.
But he's literally like a pioneer for urban black radio, you know. But it's that point I was talking about, you know, radio face and you create images of your superstars and your heroes and your idols, you know. But sorry, can I just squeeze in one thing? Just came to me now about how when we have radio idols, we imitate them. Everybody does that the same way you imitate your parents, who have an influence on you consciously and subconsciously. Right?
Yes.
So you become a parent, your default position is how you were raised. And then you wonder why you're like, oh, wait a minute, my dad used to do that, okay? But the point about it is that you imitate to get into an industry, but when you've got your foot in the door, find your voice.
Yeah.
That's important to find your voice, yeah.
Mr. Khoza, for those who want to find out more about you, where can they connect with you further?
Google me.
Yes.
If you Google me, you might find the other Makhosi Khoza who's a doctor and who's a she.
Yeah.
But seriously, just all social networks, Makhosi Khoza.
Yes.
Let's chat on the socials, DM for the books, what I'm doing, etc., etc., etc. In fact, I'm doing a training workshop tomorrow for a certain radio station, which I can't reveal right now.
Okay.
But yeah, no, you're busy. You must be busy also.
Yes.
Sing a confirm.
Or are you very responsive on social media? How can someone approach you? Because maybe it's the approach that gets people not you responding to.
Here's a funny story.
Yes.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
That's right.
Secondly, I'm told there's this rumor that when I engage in the topic of radio, I'm very brutal. And I was like,
You have to be brutal.
listen, me, would this face be brutal? So I don't know whether people are intimidated.
Yeah.
But I'm very free with what I know, what I've accomplished. Maybe I'm frank because two reasons. One, I've worn many hats. So I'm talking from experience.
Yeah.
Two, I'm still a student of the game. So even though I have this engagement, I learn from where people are, as opposed to, because I never want to be the guy like, in his day he was something, now he thinks he's still something. I learn,
Yeah.
right? What's the other point I wanted to make? What were we talking about?
Approach.
Approach, yes.
Yes.
I think ultimately it's about, I very vigorously defend the medium.
Okay.
So if it's like a situation whereby when somebody tells you something and they're asking for your advice, I normally ask one question. Do you want me to tell you what I think or you want me to respond to you as a friend?
Okay.
So if you're a friend, you're like, oh, shame, I'm chommy. So, but yes, I'm so dull. Or, dude, this radio thing isn't you. If you're interested in radio, you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or try maybe being a music compiler. Try being a news reader.
Okay.
Try being a manager. Try reading traffic. Try. So I mean, there are lots of groups on social media that I see where people speak and debate about radio. I join certain groups and I just shut up. I never comment because I'm like, yo. So I joined because I want to see where the conversation is today.
Okay.
Right? And sometimes when people are ignorant, you don't want to correct them.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to have conversation percolate
Yes.
because you learn. And sometimes when you comment, it's interesting that I can comment, but the problem with social media sometimes is that when you comment, you become a target. Because on social media, anybody and everybody throws stones. And sometimes you don't have the energy to respond to people who are ignorant or who are just trolls. They're like, ah, ha, 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 ha. And you're like, dude, I'm not going to waste my time.
Yes.
But maybe now and then I might just say, actually, the position is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, for example, on the Penny Nduli thing, I comment now and then to kind of let people know where the position is. But other times I'm like, she sees comments, she can comment on herself.
Yes.
And there are a lot of things I can take credit for that I don't, but I quietly look at the kids that I've groomed. And grooming is maybe an unfortunate term these days.
Yes.
But anyway, the people who I've mentored and developed and who have found their wings.
Yeah.
And to look at what degree of my influence did they use to springboard to where they are.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can take credit for the wrong thing. But similarly, it's like when you're in management, when you guide people, that's a powerful thing. And I remember people looking at me funny when I was in a management position. I said, one of my greatest goals is to develop you to the point that you leave us. Because I want you to reach your full potential. If we can't accommodate your full potential, that should be okay. But that takes courage, that takes boldness, because the only reason you can take on that kind of position is if you are able to develop the next batch. If, however, you reach your limit with this particular person, you will want to hold on to them and lie to them just so they can stay.
Yeah.
So when I talk about needing a new breed of talent, real talent, you also similarly need bold, experienced management.
That's right.
To know where they can tweak and where they shouldn't tweak. But I'm an optimist. And as long as I have a platform to be the grumpy old man, I'm here for it. Bring it on.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Khoza. We appreciate the time that you gave us this morning. You are such a ball of knowledge, and we definitely appreciate that. I know you appreciate it, especially
Definitely
as someone
do.
who understands the industry and wants to further their career within the industry. So you've definitely helped some of us build a social media platform, right? Build a following, get yourself out there, push yourself, challenge yourself so you feel like you have lived, which I think that is one of the most important things. If you just tuned in now, you are tuned into Voices of the Art. We have the legendary Makhosi Khoza, who shared such a beautiful conversation with us regarding all things radio, as well as social media, how you can work a median between the two. Igama lami Andile wakatube matube _ muyazi kodwa ngihambi ngedwa ngihamba no.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We are going to be live again next Saturday, same time, same place. But before we do that, we have a studio favorite who has said really great show today. Thank you, VM. Keep pushing and surprising us every Saturday. That is, of course, Usent, who joins us every Saturday, just like we would like you to do. Carry on liking, subscribing, share it with your friends and family, also the strangers, because we want constructive criticism. Let's meet next weekend, same time, same place.